and shop and ship take care of the rest. TravelSpan is now offering a shop and ship program to Guyana and Trinidad. Cheap rates plus tracking and multiple offices in Georgetown, West Coast Demerara, and Berbice to take care of your package. Treat yourself and ship your Christmas gifts early this year. In Guyana, 227-1701, and in New York, call 347-238-2201. That's 227-1701. And in New York, 347-238-2201. Let TravelSpan and GlobeSpan take care of your online shopping and shipping.
Right, so this is Bacchanal Radio, one voice, one sound, and it is the exact time right now, right? Exactly 6 o'clock. And as promised, it's a special interview that we have. Usually we are 99.9% entertainment. Even when we do the interviews, it's entertainment based. But this one is a little different. We have done one or two quote unquote different interviews in the past, but this one is even different from the other different ones, if you know what I'm talking about. So as we've been promoting and advertising, we have a good friend of Bacchanal, an avid listener of Bacchanal Radio, and someone who supports the West Indian culture and supports everything that is done here on Bacchanal Radio for a while. And he's none other than Dr. Shyam. Dr. Shyam, welcome on board.
Hi, Big Daddy, and everybody who's listening. It's good to be with you.
All right. Well, I'm hearing your vocals very like you're far away. I know we didn't get an opportunity to test before, but I'm hearing it like as if it's very, very far away. I don't know if I don't know if it's the actual microphone that is feeding into the audio, or you're getting that audio from your desktop microphone or your laptop microphone. The not the one on your headphones. It looks like it's coming through. It looks like it's coming through.
It should be coming through the headphone. Let me see.
Yeah, it looks like the sound is coming through the headphones on the laptop itself, on the
It's coming through the
face of the face of the laptop, yeah, or the iPad or whatever it is that you are using.
No, I'm talking to you through the it's a webcam, so it's probably coming through that. It should be coming through the headphones.
Let me see if I can adjust something here. All right, say something again.
Yeah, is it any clearer than
No. Talk one more time. Let's see if.
Okay.
Let's give me another.
Checking.
No, it's not coming through. It's not coming through the microphone that we wanted to come through. So maybe I could play one song and see if we can come back and sort it out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. So let me just play something and we'll come back and sort out that. All right. So 2 minutes after the hour, Dr. Shyam, Maharaj is with us, but just getting a little issue there with the microphone. So we're going to sort it out and come right back here on this special interview.
That's what it is. Let me
still getting the job done. The Expendables.
Yeah, you know, it's been a while. Fun times ahead, though. I said, yeah. It's been a long time. A long time coming, long time. Alright, I love to party bad. Hey, give me no. Bad vibes can't step on the bass. Can't put a foot in the place. I hear the girl them whining their waist, and my friends have drinks by the case.
The mic is on, but I changed the audio, and I'm getting the feedback on it now, so that it looks like it's working on the mic on the headset.
Mash up dance, mash up set, mash up dance, mash up set, party till I'm fucking wet. Long time I hear party and I miss it.
Yeah,
I could definitely use a good fet right now. Definitely use a good fet right now. Fet right now. Definitely use a good fet right now. I could surely do it a good fet right now. Surely do it a good fet right now. Fet right now. Surely do it a good fet right now. Dance, bun up, hand up, everything up, everything up, dance, bun up, hand up, everything up, babe. We shall where the party blow, whoa. The girl them whining so low. Bend over touching the toe and we right there behind them, telling them go. Long time, I don't end up in a party holding a nice vibe, but I'm glad that I come out tonight. Cause in the house like some of them ballin'. I could definitely use a good fet right now. Definitely use a good fet right now. Definitely use a good fet right now. I could surely do it a good fet right now. Surely do it a good fet right now. Surely do it a good fet right now. Dance, bun up, hand up, everything up, everything up, dance, bun up, hand up, everything up.
So I believe we have sorted everything out. I believe, Dr. Shyam, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me better now?
Much better. Yes.
All right.
Everything is good to go. So, welcome on board officially. Welcome on board Bacchanal Radio in this official capacity. I mean, you've been here with us for a couple years, as an avid listener, as we said. But in terms of making a direct contribution to the programming, this is the first time that we have you on board, and we definitely appreciate it. You know, it's something that we were talking about a few weeks. At least a month now, right?
Yeah, just about, yeah. But, timing is always an issue, so life is what it is.
Right, definitely. I see a webcam is
It's
moving.
going to do that, yeah. I have it, I didn't reset the follow my face on it. Sorry about that.
That's fine. All right, cool. So before we get into it, Doc, you want to give us a little like summary on your medical career in terms of, we just know you as Dr. Shyam on Bacchanal Radio. We don't know your background in terms of, if you specialize in anything, if you are someone who has been a GP and now doing something else, working in a hospital, working in a private institution. You just want to give us a little background.
All right. Well, basically, I'm Trini, of course. You see the flag and the reflection on the back there.
Yeah.
Come from basically St. Augustine. I got my medical degree out of the Kolkata, India, and my specialty really is rehab oriented, and I deal with a lot of things like strokes and Parkinson's and these type of afflictions, and basically that's it. I mean, I'm not one to tout my or fly my flag to say, I'm pretty much down to earth, and I am who I am as far as being pretty much out here to do a job, and I enjoy what I do, and I'm here to help in any which way, shape, or form that I can to my patients and anybody else who needs my help.
Right. So right now you're actually working with the elderly population out there in South Florida, right?
Correct. Absolutely correct. Yes.
All right. Cool. So this is all COVID related, because that is the major issue, problem, whatever it is you want to call it, facing us, and has been facing us for the last year and a half, and you've been
Hmm.
dealing with it in a very direct way with
Hmm.
your patients, and you yourself have had COVID as well, and over COVID now. I mean, before we get into anything else, your personal experience with COVID. I mean, how was that for you? Was it as expected in terms of what you knew as a doctor, what people experience, the symptoms and that kind of thing, or
Hmm.
was it totally unexpected? Were there some symptoms and some issues there that you really didn't cater for at all?
Okay. Putting my cards on the table, I am a diabetic. Um, I worked on the COVID unit, seeing patients on the COVID unit. And despite, as we had discussed before, despite taking all precautions, the virus actually somehow or the other snuck in. And I became somewhat of a super spreader, believe it or not.
Wow.
I came home and I gave COVID to my wife, who in turn works with her sister and at a doctor's office. They both became infected. Plus, the sister took it home to her daughter. Now, I was the only lucky one, I would say, knock on wood, that did not suffer symptoms. The only symptom I suffered was crawling the walls because being confined for 2 weeks was driving me absolutely nuts. My wife, on the other hand, suffered every single symptom, with the exception of the respiratory distress. Now, she did have the body aches, the chills, the loss in taste, and all of the symptoms that associated with the COVID. And she and her sister and everybody else, except with the niece, um, suffered all the expected symptoms with the COVID.
Right. So you being a diabetic too, was that sort of surprising in a way that you didn't have any sort of symptom?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that you find with anybody with any kind of compromise in their health would be more susceptible to the virus. People with pre-existing conditions, because their systems are already compromised, tend to suffer more symptoms. And me not having any symptoms at all was really, really surprising to me. Not that I'm going to complain about it, but it was really surprising. And my wife, who has absolutely no medical conditions to talk about, suffered immensely. I mean, she I was the one taking care of her, even though I wasn't at work. I was still doing my job at home, taking care of my wife, because she just couldn't get up and move.
Right, right. Okay. So when you hear that people with symptoms more likely than not will have people with comorbidities more likely than not will have the symptoms. Is
Hmm.
that at the far end of the scale in terms of, is it like a 90% possibility or a 90% chance, or does it really depend on the individual and the biological structure of each individual despite what they have? So like you with your diabetes, was there something else that would have negated that whole the whole fact that you had COVID and would have put you in good stead, so to speak?
I would say it's a little bit of both. Me, I was pretty athletic as a young man. I'm old now, so I'm not as athletic anymore. But I played a lot of cricket, and I used to play tennis 7 days a week. So having that as a background and being somewhat still going to the gym up pre-COVID 3 times a week and really putting in a good workout, I think is what saved me a little bit. Now, having said that, I'm not going to say that's the only reason why, or it is a reason why. It could also be genetics, as you mentioned. I mean, who the heck knows? I mean, we're still learning about this virus and why and what it does to who it gets into contact with. So it's still, I mean, the science is still out on the whole thing. Why it affects people more, one person more than it affects another one.
Right. Now, in terms of also those that suffer with the diabetes, the hypertension, and other comorbidities, are they in a better position when they have those things under control? It doesn't really matter if you are taking medication to control these issues that you have.
Um, I would say no, because even though you're controlled, remember, healthy people are also getting the virus. So, sorry, the camera keeps doing what it's doing, but
That's fine.
um, my blood sugar has been controlled. It didn't stop the virus from attacking me. So I would say no. It
But
doesn't matter. It's just a matter of luck and chance.
your blood sugar is controlled. You got the virus, but it didn't give you the symptoms. So, in terms of from
True.
the perspective of the symptoms, are the
Hmm.
symptoms more under control once you have your medical conditions under control? Is that even something that one could say, or that has not been proven at all?
That hasn't. Yeah, I was just gonna say that hasn't been proven to be true or not true. So
All right.
I couldn't give you a definite yes or no answer on that one.
All right, cool, cool. Now in terms of is it, again, looking back at all these pre-existing conditions, a lot of people are saying, at least in Trinidad, you hear it from some other islands as well within the CARICOM region, which is,
Hmm.
we have a whole different ball game on this side of the world as opposed to you guys. A lot of people are saying that once you have the comorbidities, it is at the point where your chances of survival on the whole is your chances are very slim when compared to not having anything at all. But what you are saying is that you could be 100% healthy and still have a very bad reaction to COVID. That's what you're saying.
You can actually die. That's the thing about it. Now, I mean, uh, again, I mean, it depends on the individual. Why it affects somebody more, like from my experience, somebody who's much more healthy than me died. Okay, I've seen that. Why? The answer is I don't know. Now, does it mean that they did not have some kind of pre-existing condition that we don't know about, or is it just that they were healthy and genetics or whatever else labels you want to put caused them to suffer the most adverse reaction and suffer the ultimate sacrifice? I don't know. I don't know. The science is still out on all of those questions.
Right. Now we're seeing that President Biden in states, he's actually actioning a special team to investigate now, where the virus came from in terms of its origins, with
Hmm.
whether it was man-made in a lab or from the bat, as
Hmm.
everybody's saying. Your personal opinion, and maybe your colleagues as well that you talk to. I mean, what feeling do you have in terms of where you think it really came from? Because you've dealt with other viruses, and over the years you've had to deal with so many different complications and diseases and everything else.
Hmm.
In your opinion, where do you think this originated?
Okay, for any virus or bacteria to jump species is not an easy thing. Okay, the science has proven that it's not. Now, is it impossible? The answer to that question is absolutely not. Um, it could possibly do that. My thinking on it, I'm six of one and half a dozen of the other, as far as whether it comes from bats or any other animal that was ingested and whatever, or if it was biologically manufactured as some kind of chemical or biological warfare, which is quite a possibility as well. Um, I'm not decided on which one sits well with my thinking, because both possibilities are absolutely correct.
So you have not ruled out one at all, and
No,
you're actually middle of the road because you think that there's a 50-50% chance on either side. It is that strong that it could be lab created as well in your mind.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Okay. Now, in terms of our community here, because of course, with Bacchanal, we deal primarily with the West Indian community, Trinidadians, Guyanese, other islanders, and other people within our community. And it's
Hmm.
been said that people of color, people who are from the minorities, they are the ones most susceptible to COVID in terms of the harsher reactions and
Hmm.
how it affects us. Is that medically true as well?
No, um, I would say not. There is a difference in the genetic makeup when you talk about the whites versus the non-whites and whatever. But the simple answer to your question is no. It comes down to, again, the individual, what that individual's made up of, and what their comorbidities are, or the likes. So I would not say it's going to affect. Um, a virus is a virus. It has no sense of rational thinking to say, well, I'm going to affect a black person or an Indian person this way and a white person some other way.
So genetics
There's no
has
logic behind it.
genetics doesn't play a part in terms of the genetic code of someone of color and someone who is not a minority, so to
It
speak.
probably does, not to cut across, but it probably does. But I would say to a minuscule a percentage.
Right. Okay. I just want to throw it out to the people locked on, of course, whether you're on audio or video via, Facebook Live, YouTube, or Twitch. You could probably send your questions. If you have any questions that you want Dr. Sham to respond to, he may not be able to give you a full answer like you want, but as best as possible, he can give you an answer on some of your questions. Maybe not all. So you could send in your questions and let us know. Right.
I'll try my best.
Right. Right. Okay. What I want to find out as well is that we heard from the very early period of COVID last year that people have been getting, some people got COVID twice.
Hmm.
Um, and is it possible? Well, two questions arising out of that. Do you get COVID twice in the same way that you get the flu twice or three times, sometimes back to back to back, or every few months you might get the flu, the common cold? Is it the same way, or is it a little different in terms of, would you be able to fight it off a little better the second time? I mean, I don't know if you've had the experience with many people who've gotten the COVID a couple of times. How does it work with comparison to the flu and the common cold, as opposed to how it is its own genetic structure and makeup? And is it easier the second time around, or not really?
No, I actually know somebody who had it three times, believe it or not.
Wow.
And yes, uh, and he actually basically was like myself, asymptomatic. He coped with it pretty decently. Um, didn't have too much of a problem. The second time he did contract it, he suffered a little bit more symptoms. And when I say symptoms, he had the body aches and the fevers. But the third time, he didn't have any issues. Now, like with any viral attack, we do build antibodies within our system. So you would expect that the body will be able to fade off or fight off any further viral attack better than it is. But remember one thing about viruses, they mutate. So when a virus attacks you one time, it doesn't mean the same strain of that virus is going to attack you the second, third, fourth, fifth, or whatever number of times you want to put to it. There is mutations, and with the mutations come different levels of symptoms. Not that the symptoms vary, but the levels of symptoms will vary. So on that end, chances are it's going to vary uh, slightly or somewhat a little bit more uh, immensely.
So you never develop antibodies to the point where you're hardly likely to get any sort of symptoms, and it continues that way if you get infected further down the road in terms of twice, three times. You are at the mercy of how the virus itself attacks you at that point.
Well, that's one of the premises that the vaccine is coming out at, with the hope that it actually boosts your immune system to the point that, if the virus attacks again, your symptoms will be less. Now, having COVID once, twice, three times, if God forbid you end up suffering that much, your antibody buildup in the system should protect you quite a bit, according to the way the science is going. So we're hoping, like I said, the jury is still out because we're still early in the stage of this virus. Even though coronaviruses have always been out there, there's been many other different coronaviruses. But as I mentioned to you in one of our talks before, because of the changes in climate and whatever, and the changes that we have going on globally, all making things either more potent or changing it in a way that we as men who are causing these changes are being affected in a very, very strong way.
Now, do you guys in South Florida and in the states in general? And I don't know if you can speak for Canada, but I know basically in the states, I know you all have taken a lot of preventative measures to try and block certain variants from entering the country. What is the level now? I mean, if at all, do you have any of the quote unquote deadly variants, the Brazilian variant, the Indian variant? Has that been something, or has those have those variants been popping up from time to time in the states?
I haven't heard of any, I'll be honest about that. But is it possible? Heck yes. You know why? Because we still have, even though the borders may be closed, and when I say the borders may be closed, um, in the early stages of coronavirus, um, the borders are closed to travel, but yet you still have trade occurring. What happens when you have trade occurring? You have individuals coming, you have shipments coming, and even though the virus doesn't really survive that well on inanimate objects, but you have people who are manning the ships and bringing in these items and whatever. So the chances of other variants coming in is highly possible, even though now the border is semi-open. And even though the borders in Trinidad are supposedly closed, you still have the influx of other people. And I say that guardedly, okay? Um, you got people coming in, you have trade still occurring, so the chances of the virus coming in at different strain levels is highly possible.
Now I know in the states you guys don't have a policy. The federal policy is not to be vaccinated before you enter. You have to have within a 72-hour period, a test, a negative test. But we've seen in Trinidad and other places where people have false negatives, within a 72-hour period, and then
Mhm.
24 hours after that, or a couple days after that, they actually test positive. Is that something that do you perceive now that the states in particular with the policy that they have, do you see maybe another wave coming in? Maybe not a big wave, but with what is taking place now in terms of immigration, is that
Mhm.
is that really a foolproof way of preventing further infection in terms of from an external source?
Okay, the answer to that question, I'll answer it this way. Remember, there's a 14-day incubation period for the virus. So if you get infected, let's say, and you travel within day 5, you're going to have a negative test. Does that mean you're COVID negative? And 5 days down the road or 7 days down the road, you develop a positive test. Does that mean that Well, all of a sudden I was negative, but I'm positive now. No, you were positive 5 days ago.
Right.
But
So
the test was done at a time when you weren't producing the virus to the degree to show up on the test. So the test was not sensitive enough to pick it up in the early stages, but it picks it up at the later stages. Now, can you develop the infection later on? Of course you can. I mean, when you get into it depends on who or what you're exposed to, what your level of exposure is. So even though I'm negative today, I could be positive 14 days down the road because I got exposed to somebody within hours of my time testing positive.
right. So
I mean
you're
negative. Sorry.
so you're saying that policy right now in terms of letting in people, once they are a COVID negative within a 72-hour period, that is not a foolproof. That's really and truly not a foolproof way
Absolutely not.
of controlling more, more of these infections coming into you at a later date.
Absolutely not. My stand on that would be if you come from outside into let's say I come down to Trinidad for a visit to visit my mom and my sister. I need to quarantine. Even though I have a negative test, I should be quarantined for 2 weeks.
Right, and that's something not being done in the states right now. I mean, from
Absolutely.
from a medical perspective, you know what you think the reason may be in terms of why that's not being done, or is it purely economical and business and just trying to get the trade pumping again between all these countries and the states, or I mean, is there any medical theory behind that as well? Just from
No,
a medical.
it's purely a financial situation there. Medically speaking, I'm pretty sure if you talk to any doctor, they will tell you the same thing. This is all financial. This is all trade. It's all political. It's everything but medical.
Right. All right. So, in terms of the basic tenets of this COVID, in terms of responding to COVID, and how the protocols are all over the world. Three basic
Hmm.
things that I tell you, right? Mask up,
Hmm.
sanitize, and 6 feet apart, social distancing, right?
Right.
Now, if someone, because I'm hearing more and more now, like yourself, but of course um, you are in an environment where it's all around you. But I'm hearing a lot of just the average layman out there going to the grocery, going to the pharmacy, really sanitizing, really putting on masks, and
Hmm.
staying as far away as possible from people, still contracting the COVID. Now, is it
Hmm.
is it is it airborne to the extent that it stays in the air for minutes at a time, or is it just a few seconds? Because we don't ever get the full details in terms of how long is it airborne.
Hmm.
Are the molecules big enough to float around for quite a while?
Right.
Why are these people who are taking 100% precautions still getting COVID? What may be the reason in that sense when you do everything and you still get the COVID in a environment like that?
Okay. So remember, when you're outside, the wind's blowing, so you have a better chance of survival or not get contracting the virus unless somebody sneezes close to you. Now, once you enter an establishment, let's say a grocery store, for example, what do they have? They have central air.
Hmm.
Somebody sneezes on one aisle. Does it stay in that aisle? It does not. It actually permeates the air for a while and it circulates for a while. So, with that being said, that's how people can contract it within any confined environment. If somebody sneezes in, let's say, in the parking lot, two parking spaces down or upwind, and you're downwind, chances of you contracting it, yes. But if you're upwind of that sneeze, chances of you no.
Right. So it depends on the environment. It depends on what sort of ventilation that environment has, closed or
Yes.
indoors, as opposed to an outdoor environment. And does it? I mean, I also heard from some medical practitioners that it depends on the level of virus within the individual, because they said sometimes that Sometimes an individual may not give off too much of the bacteria, which I was trying to comprehend. That you may just get one or two little droplets, and it may not be enough. This is coming from medical practitioners, right, in Trinidad and other places where they say, some people get it bad because they get the full blast of COVID, and then others they may just get a little, a little one drop, and they get a little thing, and they get over it very quickly. I mean, what do you say to something like that?
That's as logical as saying to me, well, I get a kind of a cold rather than I get the cold. That does not sit well with me at all. I mean, that's ludicrous, and I can't use the word I really want to use on air. For a medical professional to be saying something as stupid as that, it's beyond me. No. Now, having said that, early stage somebody who has COVID, yes, they do produce less of the virus than somebody who's full blown COVID. But does that mean you're still not going to get infected? Heck no. You're still going to get infected. It's like, I kind of get the virus. No, you either get the virus or you don't. So that kind of statement should never be said by any kind of medical professional.
And that has nothing to do with the level of intake of bacteria, or the virus content itself.
Bacteria invade the body, and they mutate, they multiply. Sorry, so it could only take one drop or half a drop, and it just replicates in the body, and this is the science of it all.
Right. Now, I want to find out, in terms of like, those that have recovered from COVID, whether they were asymptomatic or experiencing symptoms at the time, at the peak of their COVID experience. Do most people have some sort of long-term effect, even though you may say, well, all right, I didn't experience anything during my COVID, 2-week COVID period. Do they also experience any long-term effects as well as those that were experiencing all the symptoms, or is it also dependent on the individual?
Okay, I'll give you myself as an example. I'm pretty good with words, and as you notice, sometimes you would hear me kind of, or you see me kind of thinking to get the words. There's something that actually, one of the symptoms of survivors of COVID is they having to search for words. They're having that memory problem. Others have had respiratory issues. So there are side effects. Let me call it that, for lack of a better word. There are side effects that people are suffering long term. How long that is going to persist and how long it's going to continue, we don't know. Like I said, the science is still out. I know from personal experience where word searches and word finding for me was easy in terms of expressing myself. Sometimes I find it hard to explain something, especially to a patient or a family member, what's going on with them. I'll have to kind of take it back and pause, as I just did, to actually find the words that I need to express to them in order to explain something.
Right. So that wasn't the case before.
No, I have a motor mouth, and it'll go really fast, and my thinking is just as fast, and I didn't have that issue at all. I could put pen to paper as quickly as I could say the words out of my mouth. Now I'm having that issue where I have to really think.
So you're seeing a marked difference prior and post.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Now, in terms of with all the vaccines now, before we get to the actual vaccine supply around the world, or different brands and everything else, do you think that in terms of just the medication, because initially before we had the vaccine, we had a lot of people talking about different medications on what could help, what can help, what could if you get it, you possibly be able to have medication in the future where you can be cured in a sense, or from that perspective, or you can negate the effects, the effects to the point, the symptoms to the point where you can have COVID, get the medication, and you're good. You don't really even need a vaccine. Do you see COVID ever reaching that stage where medication alone would help without the vaccine?
The answer to that is no, because like I said, viruses mutate. Okay. So, I mean, remember, coronavirus, you had the chikungunya and all these other things. Those were coronaviruses, and they mutated into what we have today. And today, this virus is much more deadly than the chikungunya and all those other coronaviruses that were there previously. So, the simple answer to that is no.
But
People have been saying that, oh, well, if you take this, or you drink this, or you're not going to get COVID. No, it's a lie. It's a lie. It's a downright lie, and it's not going to prevent you from getting it.
But not the prevention part, but in terms of, you have COVID, and let's say,
Mm-hmm.
like, just with the flu and the common cold, you take
Mm-hmm.
some multi-symptom tablet, you feel a little better, you inhale something, you feel a little better. You take like a multitude, a mixture, a concoction of medication, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you feel better. I know that usually with any virus, you have to let it run its course before it leaves your
Right.
body. But in terms of the symptoms and having something to help with the symptoms, which is not a vaccine, is that in itself possible?
Okay, I could give you what I used and what my wife used. We did it start. Now, let me put this. This is not an endorsement, and this is not me telling you this is what's going to help. Okay, this is what I used, and we did. And we know from Trinidad, you make your little hardy tea with your ginger and your lemongrass and all these things. Um, did it help? Possibly. But is it something that can be put into pill form, or something to the like that's going to be put in the pill form somewhere down the road that's gonna help cure the coronavirus? If it's possible, it's years upon years upon years away from something like that actually coming to pass. And during that time, remember what's going on. We're gonna have something else to deal with.
Right, of course. So what you've also said just a couple of minutes ago is that things are getting worse in terms of the virus itself, right? The viruses that are coming out, and you're saying that COVID is a mutation of previous coronaviruses that have
Well,
been
they
out.
haven't said that. They haven't proven that. But what I'm comparing it to is the previous coronavirus category. Remember, coronavirus is a category.
Right.
So this being placed in that category, what I'm saying is the previous coronavirus type viruses were not as deadly as this one is, regardless of where it started and how it started.
Hmm.
It's just a classification. Coronavirus is a classification.
But you expect from your experience, your knowledge, looking at this, doing your research, and seeing all the other research documents out there, and everybody who you speak with, um, is there a possibility that we could actually make a U-turn with viruses in general, or is it just a natural trend to get worse and worse and worse because of how the human population is and how we interact with one another, and different drugs and food and
Mhm.
animals and everything around us? Is it just a natural progression where it will get worse and worse?
Man has to stop pollution. That's one of the things, because that's what's spawning a lot of these viruses. They have to use a lot less of artificial stuff, like the hormones that they're injecting into to meats and things like that. These are the things that's causing mutation within the body, and these are the things that are causing things like cancer and things like that. So man is his own worst enemy, because we're causing a lot of these things to be produced that are afflicting us. And unless and until we change our habits in terms of what we produce massively, in terms of uh, carcinogens and pollutants in the air, and what we eat and what we ingest, I don't see that happening.
Right. Now, in terms of, we everything is vaccine now. The whole world is trying to vaccinate its population. Some
Hmm.
faster than others, some moving at snail pace, like Trinidad and Tobago, right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Um, a lot of talk out there about which vaccine is better,
Hmm.
comparisons between Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson and Johnson, AstraZeneca. Now we in Trinidad have the Sinopharm.
Hmm.
There's the Sputnik in Russia. I mean, from your perspective, we hear about efficacy as well, and one is 1995, 99%,
Hmm.
others are 79, some are 85. How do you yourself, from as from a doctor's perspective, how would you advise someone out there in terms of vaccines, and should they have a preference? Should they look at the efficacy rate of one over the other? Or is there like a minimum requirement in terms of efficacy?
Hmm.
How would you rate vaccines, and how would you speak to the average person out there in terms of how they go about getting vaccinated, which one, of the vaccines to choose?
I'll put it to you this way: do you want to live or do you want to die? Any kind of or any level of protection is a plus. So understand the percentages that they're giving you are artificial percentages, because for a vaccine to show true efficacy, it has to be tested over years on the human population. And they were right now everything is being done in quick time. Now, if somebody tells me that a vaccine has even 1% efficacy against the virus, I will take it. You know why? Because it's 1% more than I have at this point in time. So hopping and thinking about the percentages, think of it in this way: something is 50%, 20%, 10% effective. That's much more than you have presently. So I would advise them to take it.
Right. Okay. So at this stage, most of the vaccines will prevent you, from what I'm hearing, they prevent you from getting very sick and ending up in a hospital, and having that possibility of passing away. You're not supposed to reach that stage with a vaccine, any vaccine.
Absolutely correct. Because the vaccine, now, the biggest misconception people have of the vaccine is like, if I get the vaccine, I'm not going to get coronavirus. That's not true. You can still get coronavirus, even with the vaccine. The difference is your level of symptoms will be tremendously diminished.
And that's
Okay,
hands down. That's hands down, depending, not
so
depending on who
far,
the person is. Right.
so far. Now, can you still die even though you got a vaccine? Yes. It all is based on your comorbidities. Okay. If you have a heart attack, you're going to die. If you have something else, you're going to die, whether or not you have the vaccine or not. Okay. So, and it's not from the virus. Don't get me wrong. But as far as the virus is concerned, the vaccine will prevent you from ending up in a hospital, ending up on a ventilator, or even if you're somebody like myself or my wife who had none to full blown symptoms, with the exception of being put on a ventilator, chances are you would probably suffer just minor symptoms.
Right. And this is what we are seeing from the results, or should I say, from the people who have been vaccinated who've gotten the COVID.
Hmm.
Most of these people have not suffered any long standing or any severe symptoms per se as of now.
Right. And I I'm not into American sports, but I know there's a team that actually had nine players who were fully vaccinated contract the coronavirus, and I think only one of them actually had symptoms. The rest of them did not. So, I mean, that alone shows the efficacy of having some level of protection. You
Right.
know, it didn't prevent them from getting the virus, but it sure prevented them from becoming very ill.
Now, in terms of the vaccine getting to a stage with corona, with COVID, like
Hmm.
polio, measles, some other diseases in the past where, the world could say that safely,
Hmm.
99.9% we're not going to see polio again or measles or, something
Hmm.
else. And that's why people use it as a comparison to these diseases and these ailments to say, well,
Hmm.
look, this is what vaccines did for those. It could do the same for COVID. Do you see a stage couple years down the road where COVID is non-existent because of vaccines, or would you say that it would still be around in a very small way as compared to polio and measles and some of the other stuff?
No, but I would say it's quite possible because with science and the way science is developing and becoming more and more precise as the years have gone by, and if you look at the progression of science from the time of polio to now, is it possible? I would say definitely yes.
So as compared to something like polio, which is totally different, you don't see it being totally eradicated like 2-3 years from now, no COVID around, you know, we,
Um,
we don't have to worry about COVID per se. You think that may be a possibility?
it could possible. Do I see it within my lifetime? Not quite. But if is it possible? I would say yes.
All right. Now, in terms of well, what's happening here in Trinidad and Tobago, I know in Guyana too, maybe the vaccine distribution is um not as slow as us here. Maybe they have it somewhat better than us in Trinidad and Tobago at this point in time. They have open borders as well. They don't
Hmm.
seem to be having as many cases as we do. um do you know of, from your perspective, again, doing your research and looking at all the countries out there, from what you see is happening as a Trini doctor in South Florida, right? What you see happening here, do you see that as being a reason, just from your personal view, of our circumstances, what we are dealing with, our open borders, and what
Hmm.
our authorities are saying, that our authorities are saying vaccines are not readily available? Is that something that you see on the outside, where people are saying, no, you're not getting a supply of vaccines nowhere else in the world, you have to actually compete for vaccines? Is that something that you know about?
No, not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, Biden just, I think, mandated to send. I forget how many.
I think it's 80 million.
Uh, 80 million doses. Okay. So the vaccines are being produced there, and they're there for distribution. It all depends on who wants it.
Right, but in terms of like our prime minister would say, I don't want to take you into the politics, but our prime minister would say that a lot of these companies are not giving out the vaccine or selling the vaccine as they promised to in the early stages, and that's why we are finding it difficult to get vaccines from any one of the programs, whether it's direct from Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson, AstraZeneca, who, what have you, or going through COVAX and the United
Mhm.
Nations and WHO. Is that something that you've seen and anywhere else in the world, dealing with other doctors?
No, and that absolutely does not make sense to me. Again, not to criticize, but when you look at the economical aspect of it, for a business, they have a product to sell, and especially in a pandemic like we are now, the first to get out there gets the notoriety of having the cure, if you want to put it that way. And I use the word cure in quotation marks. Basically, a treatment that's actually effective. So I can't see one holding back over the other one in terms of distribution. That makes absolutely no sense to me because, I mean, they would all want to have their brand be the famous brand for either curing or effectively treating the virus.
Right. So I think I have a question here. Um, Someone who has some Janelle from Toronto is sending this question here. She says someone who has COVID after taking the vaccine, not sure when they contracted it, has been on oxygen for the past 2 weeks. Oxygen level was 69, now 80. What are his chances of recovery? The lungs has some fluids, and chest
Mhm.
and lung infection as well. Chest and lung infection as well. What do you think is his chance of recovery? He was at 69, now 80 with the oxygen level.
What was his past medical history? Does he have any kind of respiratory issues? Is he asthmatic? Does he have any kind of issues such as those that is actually causing this type of reaction? The answer to that is it's difficult to tell without a full history. How many liters of oxygen he's on at home or wherever he is right now. Chances are with 80%, he's probably on, I would say, 4 liters of oxygen at this point. Because you want to have an oxygen level anywhere above 92. 92 and above is what you want to have. Um, so my question is, what is his prior level? What comorbidities he has? Does he have any kind of respiratory issues? Is he on medication for any kind of respiratory issues pre-COVID? And those are some of the questions that need to be answered in order for me to give you a definitive yes or no answer.
Now you also hear sometimes. I'll wait for her to probably give us some more information on that patient. But you also hear sometimes from doctors that people in Trinidad, in particular, I don't know if it's the case in the States and Canada and other places, but in Trinidad, you find a lot of people going, midway in their COVID period to the hospitals, to the clinics when it's kind of at a very late stage, and you hear the
Mhm.
doctors saying, "Well, if these people came earlier, we would have been able to treat them earlier and probably prevent some serious infections in many and death in some of them as well." Is
Mhm.
that something across the board where even if you get the treatment after a day or two, it helps from you going further into the serious stages of COVID, no matter how your biological structure is? Does the initial treatment at an early stage help preventing serious illness?
Definitely. I mean, any disease, if you will, if treated in the early stages. Let's take something. I just lost a really really good friend of mine to cancer. So I'll use cancer as an example in her honor. Um, if cancer is detected in the early stages, it's easily treatable, and the patient survives a longer period of time, or they could live a full lifetime. But if it's caught later down the road, chances of survival is shortened tremendously. So that's the way I'm going to answer that question. It is true. If anything's caught in the early stages, it's treatable, and chances of survival is tremendously improved,
So COVID
as
doesn't
opposed to sorry, if caught down the road.
so COVID doesn't take its course no matter early treatment, late treatment, midway treatment, eh, because
It
you
certainly will. It certainly will, but your symptoms will probably be less.
okay. So a lot of these people that we're hearing about who are going in late, that's like almost a fatal mistake that they're making after a week of being infected and having the symptoms and being at the point where they are saying, well, now they are feeling very sick and
Mhm.
now they can't breathe and now they can't function. That's a very late stage to be seeking help, right?
But also remember, early stages in the early event of coronavirus. What did they tell us? Especially here in the United States, if you don't have severe symptoms, stay home until you develop stronger symptoms. Why? Because the emergency rooms, the hospitals were totally inundated with COVID patients. They had no room. So unless and until you develop severe symptoms, that's the time when they told people to come into the hospital. So I mean, who knows? Who knows? I
Right.
mean, it all depends on the medical system that you have. If that was a policy in Trinidad, then that's what my answer would be. If they tell you to wait until you develop symptoms, then you have no choice. But are your symptoms going to be worse than it was before by the time you get into the hospital? Heck yes.
Right. Okay. Now we just have a couple more minutes, Doc. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but if you guys out there listening right now and viewing have any questions, we just have a couple more minutes. If you want to get in your questions, now is the time. Because as I said, after the next few minutes, we'll be wrapping it up. In terms of now, where you see the population in the states, because you're in South Florida, are things at a stage now where you feel that they are probably 50% back to normalcy, 75% back to normalcy. Where would you put the states in particular now, as compared with what should be post, where we're supposed to be in a post COVID situation? Are we close to that? Are we far away?
It comes down to the number of people that are actually being vaccinated, number one. And number two, as you and I had mentioned before, the number of people that still maintain the three precautions. That in itself is key. Do I see the precautions being lifted, or should I expect that they would be lifted, or would I be comfortable with them being lifted anytime soon? The answer to that is no. I
Right.
want to, from a personal point of view, and I don't see this happening anytime until possibly late next year, if not into the following year, where these things can be a little bit more relaxed. But as far as I'm concerned, people should still be wearing their masks, washing their hands, and maintaining some level of distancing, unless and until you know for sure that people are fully vaccinated.
Right.
Now, having said that, we know that it's not a foolproof uh, answer to not getting the COVID because of environmental situations.
Right.
So
Because
that's why I will maintain those three precautions.
we saw what the CDC said a few weeks ago, and each state is now removing certain restrictions and
Mhm,
protocols, and
mhm,
things are opening up in the states in a very big way as compared to some of the other countries, worldwide.
mhm,
And people are seeing things getting back to normal. Yes, the NBA playoffs, all the other sporting activities. You see thousands of
mhm.
people now in the stadiums. So it looks like it's almost there for a lot of people, those in authority.
I hesitate to say what I want to say. This is again, it comes down to the fact that people are number one they're suffering from cabin fever. We've been cooped up in our homes and not being able to get out there and do what we want to do uh, on a regular basis. Up until now, people are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, even though that light may be a distance away. So they're starting to relax these things purely, and I use this word cautiously, on economical perspective, because people, let's face facts, country has to survive. And how does a country survive? It survives on the economics, trade,
Mm-hmm.
and all these other things. So this is one of the reasons why I think, and I could be wrong, but I think seriously that the pressure is on the authorities to relax these restrictions in order for us here in the United States to actually get back into some sense of normalcy, so that trade can and other activities that are revenue generating can restart.
Right. I see I have a question here from Susie in Toronto who says, what does the doctor think of mixing AstraZeneca and Moderna as a second dose? So one, because we get in Trinidad that in Trinidad they say take the same brand twice. Don't
Hmm.
mix the brands at all. But we know in other
Hmm.
countries they are offering a different brand as the second dose. What do you think about mixing brands of vaccines?
Right. The guidelines. You see, there's that COVID thing again. The guidelines are such that you should really take the same brand. However, if for some reason or the other that brand that you took your first dose is no longer available or is in short supply, and you don't have ready access to it, and you can get it from another brand, by all means, because again, it gives you a boost in your system. It gives you another level of immunity to the virus. So
Right.
it's advisable to take the same brand twice, but if it's not possible, by all means, go ahead and take whatever you have available.
I know a lot of people in Trinidad have been saying to me, those that I speak with, they're saying that they may take the Sinopharm or the AstraZeneca twice, but the
Hmm.
minute they get the opportunity to go to the States 6 or 8 months or a year down the road, they might take their booster as Pfizer or Moderna. Is that also something that you would advise or not advise?
Again, it all depends on how the science shows it. You know, is it possible that that's just going to be working as any other booster shot? Sure. Uh, it could possibly give you that boost in your system that if you take the same brand would give you. So would I make it a priority to leave Trinidad to come here just to get that? No. If
Well,
I can get my booster there from what I took in the beginning stages, I'll definitely do that.
because a lot of people are saying, well, they have to travel anyway. So if they're planning
Hmm.
a scheduled trip to the States because of business
Hmm.
or recreation, and they're there, and it's 6 months or a year after, and they do
Hmm.
require a booster, they rather get something with a higher efficacy than Sinopharm or AstraZeneca,
Hmm.
and have that added to what they got in Trinidad. I mean, that's the
Hmm.
thinking some people I'm talking to.
But again, it comes down to what I was saying before. It's like, look, the science is still young yet as far as the efficacy of these vaccines. Um, so the percentage, if people want to go by the percentage, by all means, go by the percentage. But to me, right now, the science is way, 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 way too young because they have not been tested adequately from my comfort zone to say, well, this one is the best over the other one. No, I wouldn't advise it. I mean, I would say just stick with what you got. If you have no choice and you're coming, let's say you're coming to from Trinidad to here during that window period where you need to get your booster shot and you're going to be staying here for an extended period of time, by all means.
Right.
But am I going to say, well, this one's the best, so I'm going to take it as a booster shot because it's going to give me more coverage or more immunity? No, I'm not going to make a statement like that.
All right. Cool. No problem. Well, we are 6 minutes after the hour, Doc. I think we've covered a lot tonight. I don't know if anything will change in the upcoming weeks or months that we have to revisit this COVID topic. I hope not. I hope the next time we do speak about COVID, it's in a really good light.
In a
From a,
more positive way, yes.
yeah, and the speech then or the discussions then would be something of looking back and seeing where we were and where we are now, as opposed
Right.
to this kind of conversation. But I really appreciate your time, Doc, and your expertise, your knowledge, and just being able to clarify a lot of different situations and questions that people have, because a lot of people out there, you're getting bombarded with information from all over. You're getting people
Hmm.
saying this doctor is correct, that one is not correct, this hospital is correct, this WHO, what they are saying, that is where we have to go. And then
Right.
sometimes you see certain institutions and certain doctors not abiding by what the WHO's what they say, so you're getting it
Hmm.
from bombarded from all over. So it's good to get some sort
Hmm.
of clarification.
Look, and the other thing is, one of the things that I would say, we were given by the Creator rational thinking, and people need to start using that rather than following what this one says, that one says, and the other one says. You know your body better than anybody else. All right, you know what you have. You know what you can withstand. You know the disease processes that are happening within you. So you're the one who has to make a decision. It's your life. Make an educated guess as to what's going to really uh, keep you healthy or alive. Nobody else can make that decision for you. So you have to be smart about it. So in order to preserve your life, you have to make the rational decision. So regardless of who says what, that's why I always say to patients, I could tell you X, Y, and Z. Doesn't mean you have to listen to me. Get a second, get a third, get a fourth, get a fifth, Get as many different opinions as you want to. But at the end of the day, the decision is yours. It's your life. So make that decision based on what you want out of it.
Right, definitely. So let me just say hi to Susie. To This is who is this? Trini Corona out there in Edmonton, Brother Clinton, Janelle in Toronto, and everybody else locked on. I see our very own Rose is locked on. Sabita Singh was locked on, and Indrani Singh as well. Satish Motilal, aka Mr. Diamond out there in Penal. Michelle, Felix, our very own Felix, DJ Felix, and everybody else locked on. Those that asked a couple of the questions. I know there's a lot of information out there already, so maybe people feel that they have everything that they need. But thanks to those that asked a couple of questions. And Doc, again, thank you very much for your time. And
Not a problem. Not a problem.
hopefully
Anytime.
the next time we link up will be just on the shout box for regular entertainment purposes.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. So again, people, that was Dr. Shyam A. Maharaj out there in South Florida. Where exactly in South Florida are you located?
I am in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale itself. All right, cool.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
So Dr. Shyam A. Maharaj, and he is based in Fort Lauderdale, but of course we are having him here. We're having him here as our resident Dr. Bacchanal, so to speak. Right?
I'm gonna put that on my desk now. Dr. Bacchanal.
Dr. Bacchanal, that's what we're talking about. That's it. So again, Doc, thank you very, very much for your time, and have a wonderful evening. We'll talk soon.
Same to you, and hi to everybody out there. And I just want to say, people, be safe, be smart. Adhere to the cautions. You have one, even though we have different beliefs. I'm a Hindu. I believe in reincarnation, but guess what? This is the only life I know. So I want to preserve this one because I don't know what else is there out there after this one is gone. So be smart about it, people, and maintain your safety as far as your health is concerned. Right. So that you don't have to come see people like myself or any other doc outside there because you're in dire straits or you need some kind of medical procedure done that could possibly be life-threatening. So be very smart and be safe.
Yep, definitely. Thanks for those words of encouragement and great advice as always, Dr. Shyam. So again, we shall touch base very soon.
Definitely. My pleasure, man. Anytime.
Take care. Thanks again.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.